You're listening to Tales of the Dead. Today's episode is about the zombie. Viewer discretion is advised. A woman had been walking for what felt like hours. Her feet ached, and the world around her seemed silent. The quiet was the worst part. No cars, no birds, just the soft crunch of dried leaves beneath the booze. She had seen the signs of the apocalypse for weeks now. Breakdown of society, sickness that turned people into monsters. But it hadn't really hit home until her hometown was swallowed by chaos. She managed to escape, leaving behind her parents' house in the dead of night. The sirens had been blaring, the distant sound of gunfire constant. She grabbed her backpack, a flashlight, and a few tins from the cupboard, and ran. Now she found herself in an empty suburban neighbourhood, once lively, now eerily still. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that crept towards her. The woman scanned the area. The air was thick with an unsettling calm, the kind before a storm, but different. It came from behind a row of hedges. The woman froze. An unmistakable shuffle of footsteps on gravel. A low guttural groan pierced the silence. Her heart hammered. She didn't have to look to know what it was. She'd seen it before, on the news, in the papers, in whispers of survivors. Infected, whatever they weren't human anymore. She took a shallow breath and ducked behind a car. Her hand instinctively reached for the small hunting knife tucked in her belt. It might be the difference between life and death. Peeking round the car, she saw it. The creature's flesh was decayed, patches of skin hanging off its bones like rotten cloth. Its eyes were glazed, hollow. It wandered aimlessly, dragging its foot along the pavement, sniffing the air. The woman's breath caught. It was too close. She had to act. She needed to slip past it. She glanced around for an escape route. Trees, a fence, anything. The wind picked up, and the zombie turned its head towards her hiding spot, its movements jerky. She stayed still, her body frozen. Her heartbeat rang in her ears. Then, suddenly, the zombie lost interest, continued wandering. She waited, barely breathing, until the zombie passed. Then, without thinking, she bolted. Her feet pounded against the pavement as she sprinted. Towards the trees, her legs burning with effort. The sound of her own breath was deafening, but she couldn't stop. She couldn't slow down. Crash! The unmistakable sounds of footsteps closing in. She glanced over her shoulder. The infected was after her, moving faster now, its mouth open in a wet snarl. Panic surged. She pushed herself harder, weaving through the trees. The ground was uneven, but she didn't care. She had to keep moving. Her leg caught in a rock, and she fell, hard. Scraping her hands against the rough earth, she winced. No, not now. She couldn't fall now. With a cry, the woman scrambled to her feet, clutching a nearby tree for support. The zombie was almost on her. She gripped the knife, standing her ground. As the creature lurched towards her, she thrust the blade into its skull. The zombie's body crumpled to the ground, a sickening thud. Stood there, chest heaving, the woman's heart pounded in her ears. She didn't wait. She didn't pause. She had to keep moving. The world was full of monsters now, but as long as she kept fighting, she could stay alive. This story is one you might be familiar with. It was the tale of a zombie and of a zombie apocalypse. A zombie, according to pop culture and folklore, is usually either a reawakened corpse with a ravenous appetite, or someone bitten by another zombie infected with a zombie virus. Zombies are usually portrayed as strong but robotic beings with rotting flesh. Their only mission is to feed. They typically don't have conversations, although some may grunt a little. Typically, in spite of their rotting state, zombies possess abilities beyond humans, such as enhanced senses, invulnerability, and superhuman strength. Zombie folklore has been around for centuries in Haiti, possibly originating when West African slaves were brought in to work on Haiti's sugarcane plantations. Brutal conditions left the slaves longing for freedom. According to some reports, the life, or rather afterlife, of a zombie represented the horrific plight of slavery. The way to defeat a zombie is fairly common knowledge thanks to the explosion the creatures had in the media. Nearly all zombie survivalists agree that the destruction of the brain is the only surefire way to neutralize a zombie, though a few rare types of zombies require complete dismemberment. In World War Z and the Zombie Survival Guide, the frontal lobe is the area of the zombie brain that still has limited function, and its destruction is key to taking a zombie down. In The Walking Dead is the brainstem. Still, in both works, substantial structural damage to any part of the brain is enough to stop the zombie. Voodoo is a religion based in West Africa and practiced throughout Haiti and the Caribbean, Brazil and South America, and lots of other places with African heritage. Many people who follow the voodoo religion believe that zombies are a myth, but some people believe that zombies are revived by a voodoo practitioner known as a bakor. Bakors have a tradition of using herbs, shells, fish, animal parts, bones and other objects to create concoctions, including zombie powders. These contain tetrodotoxin. If you've heard of this before, it's probably because it's famous for being a deadly neurotoxin found in the pufferfish. Used carefully at sublethal doses, the tetrodotoxin combination may cause zombie-like symptoms such as difficulty walking, confusion, and respiratory problems. High doses of tetrodotoxin can lead to paralysis and comas. This could cause someone to appear dead and be buried alive, and then later revived. Though it's rare, there are several credible reports in medical journals of people using these compounds to induce paralysis in people, then revive them from the grave. In a well-documented case, a Haitian man named Clairvius Narcissa entered a local hospital with severe breathing problems in 1962. After he fell into a coma, he was declared dead and buried shortly thereafter. But 18 years later, a man walked up to Angelina Narcissa in a village marketplace, insisting that she was his sister. Doctors, townspeople, and family members all identified him as Clairvius Narcissa, who claimed he'd been buried alive, then dug up and put to work on a distant sugar plantation. Zombies appeared in literature as far back as 1697 and were described as spirits or ghosts, not cannibalistic fiends. They arrived on the film scene around the same time as their monster peers Frankenstein and Dracula, with the release of White Zombie. But it wasn't until later that those zombies acquired a cult following of their own with the release of Night of the Living Dead, directed by George Romero. Over the next 15 years, Romero directed 2 more zombie films, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. As special effects technology improved with each film, the zombies appeared more gruesome and realistic. From then on, dozens of zombie films were made. Even Scooby-Doo battled zombies in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. And the release of World War Z, starring Brad Pitt, brought zombie culture to a disturbing new level of popularity. Not surprisingly, television jumped on the zombie bandwagon too, with shows like iZombie and Helix. But no zombies ever terrified more TV viewers than those on The Walking Dead. Each show features a post-apocalyptic zombie feeding frenzy that leaves fans horrified, yet unable to look away. This concludes today's chapter of Tales of the Dead. The zombie has been a juggernaut of horror for years now, and they continue to lumber forward. If you enjoyed this dive into one of the world's most famous legends, and fancy listening to another spooky tale, check out my other episodes in the Jiangxi and the Draugr. Thanks for joining me. Stay alive out there.